Hey there, this is Arakai Moon with Star Siren Astrology. I'm with my best friend, Mariah Karina. She is my favorite person in this whole world.
Is mutual.
I'm so blessed to be here with her right now, and she's an amazing astrologer and psychologist with process work style.
Processworkonline.com. Check
Yeah.
it out. We have free seminars every month looking
Yeah.
at some real ass shit.
Yeah, profound psychosomatic ways of working with patterns and really deep shit. So, anyways, pleasure to have her here. So let's talk about this full moon. We have a full moon in Aquarius tonight, and it is opposing, of course, the sun in Leo. We also have Mars in Aries, who is preparing to go retrograde, and it is squaring Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn. And so those are the aspects that we're going to be talking about. How is that affecting us on a collective level, as well as how is that affecting us, internal in this personal and real relationship-oriented way.
6 months ago was the new moon in Aquarius, and that was in February. And holy motherfucker, if you look at the difference between February and now, we have been in deep ceremony.
Right.
I think if anything, we have seen over the course of the 6 months the absolute failure of so many of our systems, of government, of organization, of ways in which we're not serving, in the United States, the black members of our society, like bringing all these underlying tensions to the surface. At the same time, in true Aquarian fashion, there has just been so much sort of neighborliness and community coming together using the internet to connect in new and unimaginable ways, and also just, creating novel networks of providing resources that people need. There have been massive uprisings and protests. There have been a proliferation of new information that's come out.
Yeah, it's been crazy actually, because Saturn and Pluto conjuncted. It sparked COVID, essentially. COVID happened, brought us into this Aquarian season in February, where Uranus was in Taurus, and we became really hyper aware of climate change in a big way. That hit us hard when we realized that when we stopped doing the shit that we're doing every day, that all of our Earth started to almost take a breath and heal itself. And the only way of connection has been through the internet. And Aquarius rules technology. It rules these interrelated networking, almost, the internet. It rules that. Networks and finding our pods of people through these different methods. And so I feel like we've gone through a huge journey in Aquarius in a sense. Saturn was also moving in and out of Aquarius earlier at the peak of all of this. And so let's look a little bit at to how this full moon brings us into the culmination of this cycle, I think. And so the new moon starts a cycle. It really allowed us to unhook. Aquarius is also that shock, that trauma, that sudden change. We shut down our world, our entire world. Never before seen
Unprecedented.
this happen. And that really allowed, I think, a lot of us to unhook from a lot of the routines and the hooks and the jobs and the roles that we had been mindlessly or forcefully going into for a long time. A lot of relationships have broken up in that time.
Trauma.
And that allows for a lot of unhooking and that detaching to happen, which is a part of the hard medicine of Aquarius. It's the beautiful medicine, but it's also the trauma. And the hard medicine is needing to unhook from these things in order to see better at what's going on and how do you want to go back into that, So it's kind of giving us this opportunity, and now we're coming to this fullness where I feel like it's opposing Leo, and it's given us this opportunity to find, what's real in our hearts. Leo rules expression and creativity and joy and pleasure. What do we want to muse and create? And a lot of this internet has facilitated connection and creativity in really unique ways that has kept us together in this time.
Yeah, at the same time that it's facilitated like disconnect, shock, distraction.
Yeah.
I really think, like you said, we've come into this fullness. You know, another thing over the past 6 months is so many of the underlying tensions have come to the surface. Black Lives Matter,
Right.
Me Too, like I said, the failure of a lot of these systems, of the economic system, of like class inequality, of the ways in which our survival is so precariously supported by these systems that are often like, you know, rotten and have like real issues. And I think now that it's come to the fullness, all that has risen to the surface in order for us to really see. And the reason why I brought up that Venus on the North Node in Gemini is because I feel like it's really a guiding principle here. Because now that all of the sort of ineffectual aspects of the systems, all of the marginalized voices, not all, some of the marginalized voices have come forward through this Aquarian journey.
From that trauma.
In
front of everyone.
Yes.
You know, and then as a result of uprising, more trauma, we're all getting gassed and chemical warfare.
Yes.
You know, and it's really bringing us to the space of what are we going to do about it?
Yes.
You know,
which is where that Venus on the North Node comes through. Because my God, like the level of beauty that has come out of these movements, right? The beginning of that Aquarius fullness to me is this time where it's like, okay, now we really need to start visioning. What new systems are we going to create?
Yeah.
What does this new world look like? And it's there, like in Gemini, all of the voices, right? Researching and gathering and allowing everyone to speak and weaving together this like deeply democratic, diverse mosaic reality of potential and possibility. And with Venus right there, like making it beautiful. And just being part of the protests here in Portland and watching the way that people really show up. There are medics, everyone's handing out water and snacks. People are in labs making eye wash to clear the gas. There's like a wall of moms protecting people,
holding sunflowers
and yellow peace signs, and a wall of vets like in their full army fatigues. Like these are like Venus images, Venus seeds of what a world could be where we show up for each other and care for each other.
Right. And a lot of this movement came during the Venus retrograde. And so I feel like when Venus comes, I mean, when she is retrograde, she brings everything really home and really fucking personal. And I feel like she was bringing it up to this point of what do you value? You know, what matters? Black lives matter. You know, what do we value? How are you going to learn? How are you going to separate, you know, yourself from these preconceived ideas or these power systems that we've clung to? And how are we going to allow ourselves to grow and to reach outside into these, you know, I love the vets and the moms and these different, you know, ethnicities all coming together, and the white people being humbled and needing to learn and reintegrate and find new languages, find new ways of speaking with each other and healing those rifts. And a lot of that I feel like is such deep Venusian and Gemini medicine, you know, and it's that North Node saying that is where we're going. And so when Venus touches the North Node, it's this beautiful moment, I think, of really saying, like, where are you going? What are, you know, what perspectives and information and ways of communication and openings are you creating in your mind in order to actually step more in alignment with what you value, you know, and how are you bringing that into, your body, your temple, your home, you know, your money, you know, because Venus rules our body, our money, our, you know, the things that we value, our home and our food.
And our resources, and understanding how many resources we actually have inside of us and in our communities that are separate from these massive systems.
Right. And I think it's such a beautiful part of this is Venus going retrograde, bringing all this awareness, bringing this desire for learning and connection and liberation, and then also passing the baton to Mars. And he is preparing to go retrograde, and that Mars energy in Aries, in the sign that it actually rules, is allowing us to touch into our desires, our will. What would we fight for? What are we trying to liberate inside of ourselves and for the collective? Because Aries is that spark, and it is that revolutionary energy, and it's very much about getting in touch with those instincts, with the body, with what are those core desires. And I think that when we bring the value and the newness of what we just experienced with Venus and Gemini into the Mars, getting back in touch with the body and the instincts, and that challenge to that square to Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn. It's the square to the systems, the square to the government, to the overarching laws and structures that we have set in place. And how is that hindering and opposing and constricting our freedom, our ability to be in that internal rhythm and in that rebellion, in that liberation.
Yeah, and this could go a lot of different ways, right? Like, this is, I think, scary from one lens of looking at it. But on the other end, the way that we have currently set up the systems aren't working. They aren't working for a huge percentage of the population. They aren't working for the limited resources we have on planet Earth.
Right.
They do need to change. Right. And so the fact that we have Pluto in Capricorn at all is a sign to me that we're trying to work out our deep patterning around the systems that we've put into place to bring about a higher octave of them. And so it's really exciting to be alive at this moment, where now Mars is going retrograde, right? It's going on a vision quest. How are we going to use our power? How are we going to use our will? What are we really fighting for in Aries? Our action to bring something new, to pioneer a new way and feed it like in, like they say, squares are like a dynamic tension seeking to be resolved with the powers that be in the systems as they are. Yeah.
And refinement. Those squares bring, in that challenge and that conflict brings this resolve and refinement that happens. And I think that it's the will and the individual desire that also needs refinement. How are we moving in that desire and that ego and that individuality? How is the individual supporting the systems and the structures? And also, how are the structures and the powers that be and these systems that we feed into? Aries feeds its fire into what it does, into that direction. And so if it's feeding its fire into a larger system that is suppressing it, enslaving it, marginalizing it, then it doesn't work, and so they can be at war with each other, as we see right now. That is happening a little bit, is that these individuals are rising up and it's coming to clash with these systems that are not willing to let go of their power. And there's going to need to be a refinement and a way to take, the Mars, that Aries needs to take responsibility and find a way to be in service to the whole. Like, find a new structure, a new way to be in service, to move that energy. And then the other part is that the Capricorn, the structures need to give way for the liberators, for the individual to also thrive and to also show it where its cracks are.
Totally.
Like, listen to those that are uprising, because they have the medicine to make that structure actually more sound for everyone. And that's where that Aquarian full moon comes back in, because the Aquarius is that spiritual, scientist and visionary that oversees, what is actually happening and how these systems can actually be supporting each other. And it is that liberator to break through the structures and find new innovative ways to support all those Leos, which brings it back to the sun.
Yeah, and just for the record, to me, this Aquarius full moon is a time of celebration. Like the innovative ways of looking at society, the voices on the margins have successfully gained traction. You know, however many years ago, Colin Kaepernick taking a knee made him an absolute exile in the NFL. And now they started football season, and all the players, all the owners of the NFL were taking a motherfucking knee. So it is so good. It's working. Like, the conversation has changed. The standards of behavior for how to show up have changed. And it is a scary time, right?
Yeah.
The polarization is also very strong. And I think it is a time to be in the perfect time for that Mars to go on a self-reflective journey to understand really what freedom means and what it's willing to fight for. And then that square, that refinement that you're saying, is how to have intelligent action that's in service of this new way of living with each other and the planet that we're trying to work out.
I really think that Mars is being initiated in this retrograde, and it's initiating all of us in that freedom and that will and that action, you know, and that fire, you know, allowing it to, like you said, reflect and refine so that it can, when it is ready to move forward, that it can be in less of its reactionary, in its fighting and slashing and burning way, and more in its true direction, its true excitement, that true spark of why it's doing what it's doing, of what is that pulse. And it's not going to be too early, and it's not going to be too late, because that true pulse and that rhythm is like just at the right time, and it's that the perfect moment. And
we went really meta, but it makes sense because that is that Aquarius vision, is to see meta, is to see the systems level.
Absolutely. And also there is this part where it does touch into our interpersonal relationships. And I feel like Aquarius is this time of detaching from our own roles and our own patterns and the things that bind us in, the boxes that we can put ourselves in or that others put us in, and finding ways to truly rise above that and liberate. And it's you know, opposing that sun in Leo. So it's asking, like, how do you integrate, you know, these places of your joy and your pleasure, and what is that true creativity, that true essence that you're meant to bring forth in this time, that is your medicine, that is others' medicine, and not allowing the constrictions or the boxes, but also not allowing the self-reflections of not compromise, but comparison, and these different dynamics that shut our expression down. And especially when we've got so in this technological and you know, somewhat separated time, even though there's a lot of us coming together, there's also a lot of people that still feel separate. And so we're kind of dancing with that journey of Aquarius, of feeling on the fringes, but also finding the like-minded people and the ways to liberate, and then finding that way in which our Leo and our expression can really be something that is this pure calling that's wanting to come out in this time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you know, even if you've been working your ass off, I've been working my ass off during quarantine, but regardless, that sense of great pause, I think, has given everyone I know a chance to really reflect on, what makes your heart sing and what you want to do. And life is really short and a lot is happening, and fuck the dumb shit. And you gotta just find out what you really care about and figure out how you can be in service of it.
Yeah, fuck the dumb shit. and a part of that, I feel like, is when we, you know, when we get in these feelings of feeling drained or frustrated or bored or any of these emotions, a lot of times it has to do with those roles, or it has to do with these ways that we're, you know, contorting ourselves or only expressing ourselves in these certain ways. And I think this is giving us this extra time to fuck the dumb shit and get really clear with what is that that medicine that makes your heart sing and be like really, really devoted to it. Yeah. Like it's now or never.
It's now or never. Yeah. And like take responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else to say before we close out?
Just to say, I think it can be really scary to, the shock is real, and I think the trauma is real.
Right.
As a mental health professional, I get to see firsthand how intense the uncertainty is and how scary it is to not be able to rely on, that what existed yesterday is going to exist tomorrow. It's so hard to make plans right now. And I think in those times it can be easy to constrict and think, oh, I got to stick with what's safe. And I think that Aquarian medicine of that real shock, of that real sort of Kundalini lightning bolt, is actually a little bit of paradox and backwards thinking, that what keeps you safe is following your heart. What keeps you safe is finding a different way to exist within the systems.
Yeah. Absolutely. Not getting overwhelmed with the ideas of others or the ideas of what's safe and following the sheep or following the any group that comes up with this new idea at any given moment right now. But it's really getting clear with our intuition in this time, allowing ourselves to feel that bird's eye view, that healthy level of detachment, so that fire and that direction and that offering can really come forth, and we'll know where to be in the right time, in the right place. And so on that note, may this full moon give you the deepest blessings to detach from what needs to be detached from in a way that truly liberates, not fractures, not isolates and separates, but truly liberates and draws you into deeper connection with the people, with the groups, with the collaborations that you're meant to come into contact with in this time. And may that detachment allow you to really touch into that joy and that pleasure that is available to us, even if the world is, radically shifting beneath our feet.
Blessed be.
Yeah.
And so it is.